let's get started. As always, these are recorded and we will send those out to you post meeting. We'll also be monitoring the chat and the questions, should you have any questions along the way. Uh, and without further ado, I'm just going to turn it over to Mark and Rick from Synchronous Solutions and let them take it away.
Thank you. Appreciate that, Josiah. All right. I am seeing two folks. I see a bunch more, but I'm only seeing two folks that actually have their videos on. So you guys have the opportunity to participate. Turn your videos on. Obviously, if you're in a public space or something where it just doesn't work, by all means. But let us know. Let's get your videos on so that we can have a conversation. I'm not looking to spend 30 minutes just talking at you. I'm looking to spend a few minutes here sharing with you in a conversational manner the answer to the question that we were posed and that we see on a regular basis. All right, so people have a raise your hand button. I might take advantage of that. Thank you, Michelle. Appreciate you coming on. Thank you, Amy. All right. Awesome. Now we got ourselves a room. Tracy, Alicia, Faith, I'm inviting you on as well. I'm calling you in. Maybe Paul will come out of the lobby. What's going on there? Oh, it needs to be admitted. Right. So guys, I'm curious, how many of you showed up because, hey, this will be interesting, versus how many showed up because you've asked the question that was posed here? Well, at least one of you did. That's why we're having this conversation. But who is curious, or who has found that it would be really interesting or valuable to know how much the shop should produce each day, and maybe you have an idea of what the answer to that question is, but it's otherwise not clear to you? All right, got a couple folks. Others are like, I'm pretty sure I know what it is, but I'm going to withhold being confident on that until he says it. And they'll be like, I knew that. I knew that all along. Guys, this is a huge question because it gets to the very root of why are we in business to begin with. When I look at my time in business, first as an employee or first as a student learning about business and working with businesses, but then in having a couple businesses now, one of the things that was key is that this business has got to make money. And what I need to produce in order for it to make money was an important question that led to a whole lot of activity that led to either it working out or not working out. In some cases, work comes. In some cases, there's a dry spell, and we got to figure out what is it going to take to achieve what we got to achieve for this to maintain viability. I have been in stuck places. I've been in cash negative situations. I have found that those periods of working are not the most fun. They are actually quite draining. So this conversation or this question, when I was posed it, hit home for me, because if we're asking this question, being able to answer it could be the difference between a whole lot of life stress or a whole lot of life confidence that, hey, financially speaking, we're in good shape. So thank you for posing the question. Thank you for showing up. I want this to have impact way above just what do we schedule, and more to why are we scheduling at that rate. So how many of you guys have a daily number you currently track that predicts whether or not you'll be profitable at the end of the month? 0 folks. Great. And let's dive in. See, this matters because you can be busy all month, and then halfway through the next month, when your accountants finally do the P&L, you realize, oh shoot, we did not make what we thought we made. All right, that happens. It happens a lot. We see it every single day when we're first talking with folks. And it could be that the backlog feels healthy, but the cash is still really tight. So it feels like we did a lot, got a lot of sales in, but our bank accounts are having to rob Peter to pay Paul, or we're moving in the wrong direction there. Maybe everybody's busy. Every single department in the organization has something to work on, and yet due dates keep moving. Cash is slow to actually get collected on, whatever it might be. Maybe we see sales go up. Maybe there's a lot more work going through the system, a lot more sales, and yet profit does not follow suit. Seem to be disconnected. Anyone grown a lot and saw your profits actually diminish over time? Yeah, that's a reality that's far too common, and there's some systemic issues at play there. And certainly, maybe you had a good month, but you only knew once the books were closed. And that's when you were able to go, yep, okay, this month did what we thought it would do. It felt right. Now we know it's right. All right. And again, this is all relevant to whether or not your jobs are secure, or whether or not the business is looking to squeeze. Real question behind the question is, how much can we produce? There's how much should we produce. There's also how much can we produce, because sometimes there's a mismatch. And sometimes that I've been busy means maybe our cost structure is off or something of that. So it's how much of the right work must flow through our business each and every day. Any of you guys really into the fabrication side, and you're all about square footage? Any of you guys come from that angle here? Are all of you guys on the sales side? Or business ownership? Where do you guys, I'm just curious from the room, you can put in the chat or you can share out loud. Michelle, where are you coming at this from?
I'm the treasurer bookkeeper. I'm just curious about how these things are working. I've heard it, but heard some from my bosses. But
all right, so you're the one that's told, here's the mess of spaghetti numbers, iron it out and tell us how we did. All right. Who else has a perspective you want to share, just so I know how to connect with you guys best? Any of you guys know how much of the right work, or any of you guys square footage driven? We're trying to get a square footage number.
Anybody got?
So what is your guys' number? How do you target? Is it number of jobs? Is it throughput? What's the number that you guys are putting in place there? Any of you guys are like, I don't know. We do something, and I'm not exactly sure what we do. That should be all the hands now, other than Michelle. All right. Otherwise, you guys are just stonewalling me. Okay. So the common approach that I've seen is folks are trying to get a bunch of square footage through their plant. And they're saying, hey, we need X amount of square foot. That's how we keep our installers busy. That's how we keep our machines running. That's how the whole kit and caboodle gets done. And if we're measuring square footage, that is a production output. There is a certain amount of square footage that you are handling and cutting. Probably some of you guys might measure linear footage, which is moving in the right direction, because that starts to get at how much actual cut time goes into your output. But we talk about throughput, and throughput is a function that is tracked in action flow. So we're consistent on that measure, but it measures the money created by that output. So let's talk a little bit about that. Your daily target begins with the profit that you intend to create. All right, so we're not after just a bunch of square footage. We're in a business. The business needs to make money. We talked about that break even. So we got to have the sales. If we take out the truly variable costs, we'll call it the slabs, or the material itself, then that gives us a throughput number. It is a dollar value. Sales is a dollar amount. Costs of that sale is a dollar amount. And then what we're left over is the money that we retain that will go towards paying for everything else. All right. So if we want to know how much we need to make, we need this throughput amount to be bigger than the operating expense of the business. It's all the expenses that are paying to keep the lights on, keep all the employees showing up. It's our labor, it's all that, plus any amount of profit that we're after. So your businesses ought to know, they ought to account for all the money going out. That's your electricity, your rent, your labor, all those things. They're fairly fixed. Not all of them are totally fixed, but they're going to be roughly a certain amount each month. And then there's capital expenditure. There's a number of other expenses that will go out that you guys need a strong system for tracking and measuring. And you want a good bookkeeper to make sure it's all actually right and not a mess. All right. And then you need a desired profit. The goal of business needs to be setting itself up for sustainability, for future wins. So we do need a little bit of profit in there to ensure that we're able to be in business next year too. When all the cost structures change, we've got some room to go into there. And then we divide it by, if we need a daily number, we divide it by the amount of selling days, or more specifically, operating days of your business. All right. So it's not an industry average. There's no industry answer to how much throughput or how much profit you need. It is going to be localized to what your individual company's cost structure is and your ambition for profit, and your schedule. How many days are you actually operating? Is it 4 days a week? Is it 6 days a week, 7 days a week? So your costs, your mix, what industries you serve, your ambition, all of those things come into play. So I can't give you a one number. What I can tell you is that from a desired profit standpoint, you want to be targeting above 10% net. Net profit. I'm not talking EBITDA, I'm talking about net profit, so that you can maintain the cash that you need in order to grow your business and improve things. All right? So that's how we get our daily target. Operating expense, whatever it is, 40,000, 180,000, 700,000, 1.9 million a month, plus whatever profit we want. You can take a percentage of revenue is usually what people are after, right? Return on sales. And you can say, okay, that equates to this. Or you can say, I want $1 million in profit. What would that take? All right. And then what are your working days that you can divide that by? Now there's a metric that you'll want to watch as well. And this is something that is just determining whether or not you've been productive towards the goal of making money. All right. So we call that a productivity score. It's simply throughput over the operating expense. Simple enough. You guys should know your operating expenses. Your accounting department should be all over that. They should be able to give you a number that's fairly consistent. And then you should be all over sales minus material costs associated with that in order to get your throughput. These are very achievable numbers, simple math, and it tells you a world of information compared to not looking at this. Now, some of you might be thinking, well, we do this with a gross profit. Great. That might be good. It all depends on what you do with that number and how you're using that number. And we specifically call it throughput because of the errors that can occur when we stay in cost accounting metrics rather than management accounting, which is throughput, operating expense, inventory. You are aiming to break even a 1.0. If you have enough throughput to cover your operating expenses, then you're at a 1.0. Above 1.0, you're creating profit. Now, beneath the score, because that's one element. One element is you got to be productive every single day. You got to have enough work in your system, and that could be a mix of square footage. It could be a mix of commercial work and builder work and retail work. there may be a whole bunch of different factors that are allowing you to achieve break-even plus, which is the throughput number you need over the operating expense per day that you need. But beneath that score, there's the what can your system actually handle? And this is where most people have no idea. They have no visibility into this part of their business, which is, we call it octane, which every business has only so much that it can run. And some people know this in the form of, we can only do so much square footage, or we can only do so many different installs on a particular day. But ultimately, there is a constraint to what your business can do, and we want to understand it, and we want to control it, because we don't want that every single day it's different. Otherwise, your business becomes absolute chaos. So we want to know, where is a consistent place that defines the capacity that our business can run, and how much of that time is being used based on the work that's coming through. And this is important because white marble is going to, 100 square foot of white marble is going to take a different amount of time at the constraint than 100 square feet of black marble. Or 100 square feet of granite is going to be different than 100 square feet of Decton. All right? Sometimes massively different. So we really want to know constraint time used, which is material dependent, linear footage dependent, square footage dependent, and is the amount of throughput associated with the work that's being run through that constraint relevant there. So Octane reveals how effectively our scarce capacity is being exploited. It helps distinguish whether we've got extra capacity and we just need more sales, or whether, hey, you're overloading the system. And a huge breakdown is, some people are trying so hard to hit their throughput number, if they're measuring that, or hit their, we got to be profitable, so we'll run as much as we can, that they overload the system. And from a sales perspective, that doesn't sound like a huge deal. Perhaps from a accounting perspective, it doesn't feel like a huge deal. From a production perspective, it can break everything very quickly. And it's the same idea as, if you want to eat quickly, you don't just shove the entire plate in your mouth. You'll choke, and you'll end up spitting stuff out, not swallowing it. And that's a messy analogy, but that's exactly what happens when we jam a bunch of stuff into a production system that can't handle it. It breaks, and stuff goes crazy, and stuff starts backing up, and blame starts ensuing. So if you're in that situation, it's because we need octane, which means we need a constraint, and we need to control our capacities in order to hit our productivity that we're after. All right. Now, what becomes possible when we have these metrics, and these metrics are very knowable when we get the team on board and we do the right setup at the front end, which, by the way, is what my business and Rick's business, that's the entire aspect of our business, is setting up a business to functionally make sense, so that flows can be controlled in a way that's synchronized and productive to the end desires of a business, which is making money and growing. All right. So what we can know once we've got this report on octane, on throughput, on productivity, is we can see every single day, okay, we scheduled enough throughput in order to achieve the amount of operating expense associated with that day. So we can see it. Now we've got daily knowledge. We're not waiting till the end of the month. In fact, we can see ahead of time. You can start looking at, do we have enough jobs sold in queue, getting their information ready to be able to template the right amount, to be able to feed the right amount into the production, to the saws, in order to install the right amount to hit these targets. So we actually get 14 days preview, plus, depending on how good your data is, on what's coming and how successful you're set up to be. It's no longer reactive. It can be proactive. And then you get to choose what your priorities are. So what are the things that are going to protect your ability to make money? You get to invest in, whether it's overtime, whether it's in getting another crew on board, whether it's getting more machinery before you need it so that it's up and running and good to go without creating a bigger mess, and allow you to ultimately breathe by having control rather than constant urgency and reactive behaviors. All right. So these numbers give you insights early so that you can actually make managerial decisions that can save you a whole lot of heartache. The number is valuable because it changes your choices, not because it's available in the dashboard. All right. We don't want you looking at dashboards. We want you acting on information that sometimes you can get from a dashboard. Most of the time, the dashboards are leading you astray if you're trusting the metrics without understanding their underlying purpose. All right, so a controlled shop manages economic flow. That's where we're trying to get to. We're away from I control every little part of the system where everyone's busy. We're measuring things based on how you do in your area today. I don't care how you did in your area today. I care how did the system perform today? How did the whole team come together to allow flow to occur in a positive way? How did we have stuff flowing as it was intended to rather than trying to chase something down and fix something on the fly? All right? And looking backwards at how we did after the month has already been completed. Where we're headed is the business makes money, and it does it through a daily throughput requirement. Understood, tracked, scheduled, planned for. How many leads you're after from your marketing efforts are determined by your conversion rate to sales, how many sales opportunities and quotes per market, so that you can make sure your pipeline has the right number of folks to keep your constraint on pace so that flow happens and you can grow and project your profits proactively. Now, this sounds like a dream world, but it's something that's very achievable. It's achieved in many industries already as a best practice, and we're working towards it becoming the best practice of this industry. Now, why don't folks just jump on board with this transition from reacting to being proactive? And one is we're stuck in the way we've always done it, with square footage. It's useful, but it's incomplete. It doesn't give you the information you need to actually make good managerial and capital allocation and leadership decisions. Maybe we hear a lot that that works for widget manufacturing, but we're really custom. It's actually more relevant the more custom you are. The more variables, the more variation, the more different data sets, the more visibility around the economics of your system is important. A lot of folks try to clean up their data. Let's get you on the right data and decision making and flow cadence, because most data is feeding you misinformation, which is causing companies to make poor decisions. Maybe folks are already too busy to change. Well, that's just a system that that's a sign, signal that your system needs changing. And then some people want their people to be more efficient. We want you to not work locally efficient, because all that does is lead to a whole lot more work and process of stuff without increasing profit. Remember, more in your mouth to chew on does not mean more swallowed. Sometimes it just means a bigger mess. All right, so 5 steps to turn the question into a management system. Now, this is my bias. When someone asks, hey, how do I know if I'm being profitable every single day? I go, we have a managerial opportunity. We have a leadership opportunity. We have a strategy opportunity in the business. So strategy-wise, you want to choose the profit you intend to create. We always start with, what do you want to achieve? You're the business. Your business has some purpose. That's why you're in it. You're investing time, capital, money, energy, your life into this business. What do you want it to produce? Once we have a goal, all right, let's put that into measurements that we can actually use. So we take it out of the financial world and the big, hairy, audacious goal world, and we turn it into throughput economics or throughput accounting, which is managerial accounting. Now we can actually do something with it. So we then go and we look at, well, what is currently limiting our ability to just have more, just put more through the system? We want to understand the constraint. And then we want to translate the goal into a credible daily requirement. And this is where we actually tie those metrics into the real reality of the constraints of your business. And from that, we start building a rhythm that exposes when things are off course and drives your team to action. And this isn't something we keep in the ivory tower. This is something we instill in every single person a part of the process so that everyone knows, here's what the goal of the business is, here's what needs to happen, here's my role and how that happens. And so while the calculation is the beginning, operating behavior from every single individual that's a part of the system, that is where the profit really starts to take off. Because I know it's not me being more efficient at my job, it's me figuring out how to help this person over here be more effective at their job. That's when we make more money. Changes your tone a little bit, changes your focus a little bit. All right. That's where you begin. A practical next step is find your number, right? What it says, and then look at your metrics to say, okay, what do I need to do next? Because until we've got those first 4 steps determined, there's really nothing actionable to do because we don't have the context on which to do it in. I hear so many people saying, we're putting this in place, we're building this, we're buying this piece of equipment, we're doing all these things, but they can't, so they're doing step 5, but they can't answer steps 1 through 4. Well, talk to us, at least talk to us at a high level so that we can guide you on whether or not it actually makes sense to invest in that piece of equipment or to go ahead and start to implement that new software. So a throughput analysis is a great starting point. Connect your financial reality, the markets that you actually serve, the mix that you're in, the capacity that you've actually built your business around to your profit ambition. We see people buy equipment and it's like, wow, you probably could have grown another 40%. You could have doubled your business before you needed to buy that piece of equipment. Isn't that interesting? How about you take that money, that 200 grand, and you put it towards something that actually makes more money flow into your business rather than something that just adds cost to your business. And that's what happens when people's profits disappear as they grow, is they're just putting money into things that are not directly helpful. So what's a credible daily throughput requirement? Visibility in the work mix. What's the constraint? How do you leverage it? And what's the practical case, the approach for a next improvement or a next investment in your business? So that's what we do. That's our whole business, Rick and I, Synchronous Solutions. We operate at that level and we guide getting everybody on board and building a culture that operates at that level within an organization. Full alignment end to end so that this isn't just an operations thing. It's not just a manager thing. It's the whole company coming together to achieve the goal of that company. All right. Love to chat with you guys about it. That's what we do all the time. In fact, we're putting out a newsletter because we have so many different perspectives on the industry that just don't get out there, that we're going to be sharing that a lot more. So that was 30 minutes. I can talk a lot. Before we just jump off here, if anyone has a few extra minutes to stick around, and that's allowable by our Action Flow hosts, thank you, Action Flow. Are there any questions you have or anything that you can add to the conversation about what would become possible for you if profits stopped being a surprise and instead started being something you planned on and executed a strategy to achieve? All right, you guys came for a reason. So
yeah,
go ahead. Yeah.
I was just gonna. I can hear Josiah's computer over there, and I can hear myself. It's really weird. Yeah, just I think one thing that I've seen recently with some of the changes we've made is the batch scheduling, like what's possible with throughput and hours that's going to be at the constraint, is being able to determine what's the most valuable job to put through my constraint right now. And then also like what material type is the most valuable and how can I optimize for that? So like now they can look and say, okay, this is the most effective throughput that we could schedule right now. And okay, what other job is also this material, so we don't have to make any changes in production. We can just load this and keep going. So it just gives you the ability, using throughput and some of these other things, just gives you the ability to be way more proactive with what you're doing than, like you said, running your business by accident. Like, and by scheduling it that way, you're helping your fabrication team not have to make all these changes before each cycle. And it's just like, hey, we can just turn this out. So it's just interesting how it makes the whole thing just one cohesive unit that's just pumping out profit.
Love that example too, because sometimes that'll be the difference whether it was worth taking that job or not at that price point. Is can you volume sell it? Can you batch it? The other thing is if you have visibility into it and you got flow going well, then the trade-off of batching and doing that is sometimes your lead time, because you're waiting for an optimal set of jobs. So by the way, that strategy amazing for volume businesses that had a lot of material flowing through their shop at any given time. If you're a tiny business, don't even go down that route. Make every single job you do viable and profitable. But as you grow, that is a wonderful strategy for figuring out how to batch and flow things together. And even if you're fast enough, you can get away with slowing down a couple of days one job in order to take advantage of that high, and that's the octane number, right? That high octane of a particular job at your constraint.
The only, if you ever ask yourself the question, which job is more profitable, or which material is more profitable, or which market segment is more profitable, there's only one metric to answer that properly, and that is the octane. Knowing the octane for a job and knowing the average octane for a market is crucial to your understanding how your business makes money. There's no other metric that replaces it.
Yep. If your business is not capacity constrained, the job better have throughput, or it's not profitable. If your business is capacity constrained, then having throughput isn't sufficient. It's does that throughput flow through that constraint at a rate that is profitable, because it has to cover your operating expenses. And that's what octane ultimately achieves. Because while it's just the throughput for the constraint time, an advanced layer that we get into, and folks have good accounting and good throughput metrics and good constraint tracking, is now we can see exactly what the job is doing, to whether it's flowing at a rate that helps the business make money or just helps the business from a margin perspective, which does not equate to making money in all scenarios.
And Action Flow is one of only two softwares that actually calculate octane and present it at the time of quote. And that's massively valuable. That's why we partner with them.
Talk on yours.
Yes.
You guys can hear me? Okay. Oh, I was just going to mention, we've had we've done these webinars with Rick and Mark multiple times, but Josiah has a client that was just trying to figure out, how am I profitable? How am I profitable? How am I profitable? And then $T just finally clicked for him, and he turned it on, and he's like, this is amazing. Like, Josiah, I don't know if you want to speak more to it, but
it's as simple as that. No, just I think he's been on some of the webinars before, and so conceptually it all made sense, but being able to plug it into the schedule and see it laid out that way has been really helpful for him.
The fastest thing to ensure profitability, the fastest way, is know what your operating expense is and calculate the $T that can cover it. And most people's systems, if all you did was just schedule enough $T, then you would solve that problem of making money.
Yeah.
Because you got plenty of capacity. Most shops every shop that I've run into, not most, every single shop that I've run into is swimming in extra capacity. You've got more people than you need. You've got more equipment than you need. You got more software capability than you need. You even have more work in process than you need. There's just all kinds of opportunity. So if all you do is go, okay, this is how much throughput I need, and you just schedule that amount over, and you manage that, you actually get that really well. You achieve the ultimate goal of business, which is make money. If you want to get the most net margin, if you want maximize your net profit, maximize your return on all the investments that you've got into your business, maximize the return on your people, make your life more sane, that's where digging into the deeper implications and metrics and how do we dive deeper into that becomes what becomes really important. But certainly turn on throughput.
Yeah.
Just schedule that amount to cover your operating expense. And yeah, that's as simple as it is.
23, 24 years ago in my very first fabricating shop, they were chronically losing money every month. And the turnaround took giving the scheduler a little spreadsheet to calculate the T dollars on every job. And his job every week was to schedule enough T dollars to make a profit, 10%. Just like that. They started making 10% net profit every week. And it just now the plant bitched and moaned for a little while, but they figured out how to get it done and they got it done. That's all it takes.
Yeah. That first step of, I like if you haven't been on Synchronous Solutions, materials that they have out, but just the buckets that you're trying to fill each day and doing that, like, it's just such a simple concept and a very easy way to get started. And I think it's so simple it bends people's minds and they're like, what do you mean? It can't be that easy.
It is that simple. Sometimes it's not that easy because you say, go do it, and someone says no. Or you say, okay, we're doing it, and the customer says, well, I need this, and then you throw that out the water. So there is a level of discipline, kind of like you want to be healthy. It's just as simple as control your calorie intake and the nutrition macros that you have. It's that simple, and we can all be fit as a button. Yet it takes discipline. It takes countering the distractions and the impulses we have to do other things. And if that's enough to throw us off course in our personal lives with our health, which matters more than anything else, you can imagine in the complexity of a business that, as simple as that is, you still got to establish the disciplines and the metrics. And as you grow, all of that complexity increases. Right now, complexity is increasing at an insane rate. And so the disciplines and the ability to keep it simple is still there. It just requires more and more discipline because there's more and more things you can do, especially with AI. But there's very few things that you should be doing that get in the way of, or there's very few things you should be doing to maintain great profitability and great business. There's all the things you can be doing to improve any little spot of the business, but it's all got to be done in context. So I think that's the holdup people have, is that it is that simple, but everything in our emotions fights it for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And health is a good analogy. Exercise is a good analogy. Eating or exercising. Yeah.
Awesome.
The shop that I mentioned was Roger's shop. Some of you read my articles in Slippery Rock on it. Roger's shop was an overnight turnaround. It only took 6 months. But once they threw the switch, it was thrown. It's just not easy. It's really simple. It's just freaking not easy for some reason as people. And that's what makes our lives interesting.
Humans are not logical creatures. We're emotional creatures, and that's wonderful and fine. We're trying to apply logic, and one of the things I found is Rick and I have had the unique opportunity in our roles throughout our careers to just reapply the most basic things over and 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 over again. So our belief is very strong. Our discipline's attention is very strong. We still chase the emotional whim. People put together very compelling cases for why their situation is different. And in moments of weakness, we believe them. And I think that's one of the challenges that our business model is on is we're here to get to be not emotionally in. I just had a session with a client who was so close to the situation that they could logically describe it, but they were stuck in it. And for me, I didn't have any emotion in this situation. Oh, that's just a clear management opportunity. We need to have that conversation. For them, it was an impossible conversation to have because that other manager would never be someone that they could actually trust to have a good conversation with. So it can either be something you're stuck on and continues to be a bottleneck, or one of the advantages of having someone who knows what we're trying to accomplish is that, hey, you know, it's not an emotional block to me. I know what needs to happen. Let's just have it happen. And you do what needs to happen without the blockage. So a lot of times that, you know, the simplicity is just go do it. If anything gets in the way of doing it, let's have a conversation. If there's systemic issues at hand, that we can resolve those. If it's a quick, just get over yourself and do it, which sometimes works. But usually there's a reason for why we're behaving the way we are and believe the things we believe. So that takes a more holistic approach and solve. But if you can solve it the easy way, just change your behavior. Then by all means, just change your behavior. It's just very rarely is that enough to actually sustain change. All righty. Well, what I'll encourage to you guys who have sat on for additional, pretty much everybody, additional 15 minutes past the allotted time, reach out. There's the barcode there that will basically give you a form to give us your information, and you'll say call me or email me and let's book a time. So we'll reach out to you based on your preference there. But it's all a conversation. And if you just have some questions about, all right, throughput analysis, I see throughput in action flow. We can direct you for some resources on that, or we can take it off your hands and facilitate the whole process for you. If there is a big benefit to you to doing this work and doing it now rather than someday, then we can talk about how we can expedite that process for you and get everyone on board. All right.
Awesome.
All righty, guys.
Thanks so much.
Thanks for the time. Make it a great rest of your week, and happy end of July, beginning of August.